You're watching Today on eNCA with myself, Mfundo Mabalane. To this now, the Director General of Public Services, Yoliswa Makhasi, has been accused of abusing her powers. Trade union Nehawu wants Minister Ayanda Dlodlo to suspend and launch an investigation. The union is accusing Makhasi of nepotism and terrorizing staff members. I'm now joined by the DG Yoliswa Makhasi to respond to those allegations. But before we actually get to Ms. Makhasi, it's important to state that Nehawu was confirmed for an interview on this show, but cancelled less than 15 minutes ago. I'm not quite sure why, because we were meant to deal with their allegations, a letter that they wrote to Minister Dlodlo, so I'm hoping there were issues beyond their control. But yeah, I had to put it out there that she was to respond after I would have interviewed Nehawu to just elaborate on some of those allegations, but unfortunately it hasn't happened. We're still extending that invitation. We can still have you a bit later on the show or any time during the week. The invitation still stands. Now, Ms. Makhasi, thank you for joining us this afternoon. Now, you've been accused of a host of things, from nepotism to bullying to even usurping the powers of the minister by hiring an acting DDG without prior consent or concurrence of the minister. What do you make of these allegations?
Well, unfortunately, Kumbu, firstly, I have not seen the allegations. I have seen from media inquiries yesterday that there were allegations that were sent to the minister by Nehawu, but I have not seen them because the minister has not shared those allegations with me. So I am unable to comment on the allegations word to word because I don't know what is in the allegations. But I read in media today, particularly Sunday Independent, their headlines and the story regarding that. So if the allegations are in respect to those issues that are read, that are in the Sunday Independent, I could give you the same response I gave to the minister on the previous allegations that were served to me by the minister in September, in October this year, or September, I think in October this year. And those allegations, the minister had indicated that they were from staff at DPSA, but the information that she gave me to respond to did not have the signatures of the staff members. However, I did respond to them and I sent that information to the minister.
Now, that would have been the petition by staff members. Well, this particular letter is one that I'm in possession of from the 25th of November. It's unfortunate we didn't get to speak before. I would have shared that letter with you. 9 points to be exact of some of these allegations that they've put together as a union. Now, perhaps to just take you through some of them, you can answer to as many as you possibly can. Now, where does the suspension case of the DDG stand right now? If we had to talk about the DDG, and if you heard a bit there where they said you usurped the powers of the minister. Have you finalized it, or are you looking to finalize that matter soon?
Firstly, I don't know how a DG usurps the powers of the minister, because the powers of the minister are legislated and the powers of the DG are legislated. So how does a DG then usurp the powers of the minister? I don't have such supernatural powers to usurp the power. I work within legislation. The public service is a creature of statutes, so I work within legislation in respect to my roles and responsibilities. I cannot comment about this case of the suspension of a DDG because it is an issue that there's confidentiality involved between the employer and the employee. So I cannot speak about the details, except to confirm that indeed we have a DDG who is on suspension, and there is a case. There's hearings that have been taking place, and some of them have been postponed at the request of the affected employee because of various reasons. And the next date that is scheduled is within January for that case.
Now, perhaps to just go back to what you've just stated on the usurping, that was probably what I was going to challenge Nehawu on, because I read the Public Services Act and they talk of delegation by the executive officer, or rather executive, the minister rather, that she could easily delegate in this respect. Was this delegated to you? Because if that was the case, then you could then go on to actually appoint the acting DDG, which is what I wanted to establish from you, that were these powers delegated by the previous minister, and when the new minister came, Ayanda Dlodlo, were they withdrawn, or you continued to function in that manner?
So the delegations framework on the public service is that there are certain delegations, there are certain responsibilities that the minister delegates to the DG, and part of those relates to employment of staff in the department and acting appointments as well as transfers of employees in the department. Of course, when I joined in March 2020, there were delegations that were in place. Those delegations were delegations that were done by the previous minister, which was Minister Dlodlo at the time. And then sometime this year, I think in July or so, sometime this year, second quarter of this year, the Minister Mchunu signed new delegations. And so the delegations that are still operational are those delegations that were signed by Minister Mchunu. We've had a discussion with Minister Dlodlo regarding the delegations, because every time there's a new minister, they must do the delegations to the DG. So there is a process unfolding. We've had meetings with Minister Dlodlo. She has indicated some of the delegations she wants reviewed that have been given to the DG. And that process is unfolding in terms of taking back the delegations to the minister to sign and approve. Okay. So the work that I'm doing now is guided by the delegations that are currently approved. Until those delegations, the new delegations by the new minister, then I will then implement those new delegations.
And then there was concurrence on the appointment of the acting DDG, I take it?
I don't want to speak on specific cases regarding these matters, but I do want to indicate that indeed there is an acting DDG that has been appointed in the department, and relevant engagements were done before such an appointment was done.
All right. And then to the issue around Tucson Center and the employees there. Have they remained on contract since 2014? And if so, can you just take us through the reasoning behind that?
So the Tucson Center is a project of the department. It's a pilot project of the department, which is based in Maponya Mall around improving service delivery. So we have a cluster of departments that are delivering services in the Maponya Mall, and the DPSA facilitated this project as a pilot. So when I arrived in 2020 in the department, these employees were on contract for probably, since the beginning of the project, for probably the past 8 years or so. And what we did was to look at mechanisms to align the contract, instead of doing year-on, year-out contracts, to align the contracts of the employees with the duration of the project. Currently, as we stand, we have approved contracts for the employees for a period of 3 years ending in 2024. It is unfortunate that the employees could not be appointed permanently, because this is a pilot project. It's not a work that the DPSA is mandated to do permanently, and it's therefore not in the core mandate of the DPSA in terms of implementation. Yes, we facilitate processes, but departments must implement. So I cannot approve appointment of people permanently in an organization when the role and responsibilities that they are playing is related to a pilot project. So that I arrived in the department, and the colleagues had been on year-in, year-out contracts, and that a pilot has taken so long before it is closed and lessons learned taken and implemented in departments is another issue. But what I have done ever since I arrived in the department is to ensure that we ensure that the project runs its course and finishes, and we take our lessons and hand over to the relevant department.
But I must say that duration is an issue of concern, wouldn't you say? Because if it's a pilot project since 2014, there would be some legitimate expectation that you'll be absorbed and become a permanent staff member. Everybody wants benefits. Everybody wants some sort of security. You're continuing. Would you say that that is perhaps an area of concern there, if a pilot is going to run for so long?
Well, certainly it's a concern that the pilot has run so long, but the previous ministers and DGs who were in the department allowed it to run so long. And the staff members in the pilot project, if they believe there's an expectation that has been created by the department, they have a right to challenge the department, and the department then will have to see out of those processes and decisions of the structures that they use to challenge the department. Then the department will be obliged to implement whatever decision comes out of that. So it is up to those staff members on what step do they take next. I cannot take responsibility for the project that ran since 2014, because I was not in the department in 2014. I only arrived in the department in 2020. and I've done the best I could in respect to this matter since my arrival in the department.
But if there were to be corrective action, you would be the one solely responsible for that action, am I correct? So if they were to challenge this, what would you deem the most appropriate resolution? Would they be somehow absorbed somewhere, or it's absolutely impossible at this point?
If they were to challenge this and they get a decision that says we must absorb them because of expectations created or whatever reasons that they get, then we have to make a plan as the department. We are in a country that has a rule of law. So if those who are entrusted with those responsibilities take such decisions, we have to make a plan as department and see how we implement such decisions.
All right. We'll observe that one. Then to the allegations of non-compliance with the OHS Act. Is it true there was failure to implement rotation plans during the different alert levels?
No, that's not true, actually. I think the issue that the branch raised at some stage was that they wanted the branch, the Nehawu branch, they wanted numbers reduced to a certain level, and we didn't agree in terms of those, in terms of the reduction. Because remember, the issue about COVID and the public service is that the work of the public service must continue, service delivery must continue. And you know that in South Africa, there was no moment where government closed because of COVID. So even in the department, there's business continuity. As much as we're a policy department, we're not a service delivery department, there is business continuity matters. So when we think about a hybrid model or remote working model, we must take those things into account. Otherwise, we've been working, rotating, we've been doing hybrid, we'll be doing everything in the department. Even now, currently, we have reduced the numbers of employees at the department at a particular moment, and we're implementing hybrid work and rotation work to allow exactly to manage the impact of COVID in terms of the infections within the department.
And then to the other serious allegation of nepotism. These are Nehawu's exact words. They used a phrase that you have become a recruitment agency for family and friends. What do you have to say to this?
I don't know if they've highlighted the names of the family members that I've recruited, but I do want to say that from what I picked up in the article that I read this morning, they are also referring to a staff member who's in my office that they said I've employed illegally and whatever. And my response to that is that firstly, Nehawu colleagues within the PSA branch, they know that the DG does not get involved in employment of people below management level, below SMS level, and the staff they have mentioned specifically in the newspaper is a non-SMS staff who the DG does not get involved. And I have been assured by HR that all recruitment processes were followed in terms of that appointment, like any other appointment in the department. So I am not aware of these family members that I have appointed. And I don't know, perhaps there's a sense that every person who speaks Xhosa who gets appointed in the department is my family. If indeed that is the sense, it would really be unfortunate. And I do not think that it's an issue that a national organization like Nehawu would want to align themselves to right now, because it sends other messages around what is the thinking around who should be working in national government.
No, I hear you, DG. I must say, though, that I really do thank you for accepting our invite to come and set the record straight. We may not know the full extent of the story or what is happening, but at least I must commend you for not resorting to the default position of having a spokesperson come to speak on your behalf and probably tell us no comment. I really must commend you for that. It's unfortunate that Nehawu is not here for us to have actually interrogated this matter further, but honestly does speak of a servant of the people. I cannot express myself on the accuracies, but nevertheless, you actually accepted our invite and you put your version before South Africans. Thank you very much for joining us this afternoon.